Here's a bit of ornament finishing. To get this bow done, I've tied it up with a piece of DMC embroidery floss. Now the way to do this one is, you know those bows for everything, like the yellow ones are for the soldiers and the pink ones are for breast cancer and stuff? Just make it look like that and adjust how you want it to look. I've seen people tie this in with like chenille stems or pipe cleaners or something. You just want something to hold it. And the DMC floss, I used all 6 strands. It's nice and strong. It's cotton. You can kind of give it a good tug and hold it together. And I keep all these little endy bits of this ribbon. This is 7/8 wired ribbon. I don't remember where I got it. And in this bag where I keep it, because the glitter gets everywhere, I have this little piece. So what you then do, once I cut the end of the DMC floss off, because you don't want that tail hanging around, so let's actually do that right now. Clip that off there. And I'm not trying to match necessarily, but I also probably wouldn't use like purple or something for this. Next, the glue gun has to come into play, so I'll show you guys that in a bit, but essentially what you do is put this over top, just so it doesn't look crappy, right? So we'll get to that eventually, but that's the idea. And I'm going to use this smaller gold. What's this say? 3/8 inch, 9.55 millimeters wide. Just to make a hanging ribbon. Similar, but a little thinner. Both of these ornaments were done using satin Mod Podge. I'm trying to use up a jar, so I just wanted to get it on there. And this one, I'm keeping it satin. It's going to be kind of subtle, so that's why I'm going to put the big sparkly bow on it. This one, I did it with satin, and then I put sparkle Mod Podge all over the top of it, just as in like an outer layer. And that one I'm going to use a silver hanging bow. So we'll get to those later. I actually started this bell ornament last year. I painted it red. Not that you have to paint it, you can just decoupage right onto the styrofoam, but I just like to paint it just for a little bit extra coverage. I put 2 dressmaker flat head pins through the ribbon and down into the styrofoam to hold this, and this little button, I just used Elmer's glue, so I sat it upright and I just popped it on there and let it dry. Now the eye pins that I bought the other day when we were at Michael's, they were about, I don't know, 1.5 inches long. And if you take, you can see this, sorry, it's hard to show. You can just open that up a little bit with needle nose pliers, just enough to get the ring part of the bell on there, and then pinch it closed again. And then don't use force to get the pin in, just sort of get it in slowly and gently, and you almost have to like wiggle it in. It's pretty sharp, but if you ram it in too far, you might actually break the styrofoam. So just be careful and go slowly, but it does work and it's pretty solidly held in there. So that one is now all done, and I'm going to pack it up and give it to my niece. Now as far as this one goes, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I have to put the middle part on, but what you also should probably do, you don't have to, but I like to do this, is chevron your ends. So fold it in half. You can do this before you even make it, I just forgot. And then you cut across on a 45-degree angle like that. Can you see it? Stand up a little bit, right like that. So that your end looks like this. And then when you open it up, it looks like that. You can make it a point, you can make it the other way, whatever you like. You can have it go in, you can have them go out. I kind of like the pointy sometimes, and sometimes I like to have it go in. It just depends on the angle of your cut. So if you cut across this way with the wire side down, you'll get it inverted, and if you cut it this way, you'll get a point. Either way looks cool, doesn't matter, it's up to you. So I have mine nicely pointed now, and if my glue gun's hot, we'll carry on. Let's see here. Oh, yep, we're good. Okay, so on the back of this bow, wrapping this around, okay, this extra piece of ribbon. So just put a little bit of hot glue back there. Doesn't need much. And stick your piece of ribbon to it. Let it just set up for a second. Wrap this around here. You can do it fairly tightly. It's just covering up whatever it was that you tied up the bow with, basically. Give it, you know, good snug in there. All the way back around to the other side. And then just a little blob of glue in the back there. And snug down the end. Let it set up a little bit. And now you got this flap hanging off the end, so you just cut that off the back and voila, you're done. There's loads and loads of ways to make bows. This is how I like to do it because it's easy. So, there you go. There's your bow. Now fluff it out a little at the front. Make your ends look pretty. Voila. Decide where you want it to go on the ornament. Shut up, Max. Sorry, that was my dog. I already made the hanger. Just slip your ribbon underneath here with the pretty side facing out. Tie a knot in the end. And I actually chevron these ends too, but I chevron them in, not out. There you go. So let's see, we'll put it right about here. So again, a little blob of glue where you want it to go. Stick it on there. Press it down just a bit because it takes a second to set up. There, now it's on. You can kind of tweak it a bit too. And if you're packing it up for somebody or keeping it on your tree and it gets a little crunch, you can just kind of take this ribbon and rework it a bit, but you still have to be a little bit careful with it. So there we go. Done. Thanks for watching. Hi everyone. I'm going to be working on this red truck felt ornament. And I got it from this website. I'm not sure if this ever shows up backwards or not. It always confuses me. But I will put a link to the website down below. And what I've got so far are 2 tree sides and 2 little bitty brown tree trunks. The instructions say to get the tree assembled first, and you are supposed to use embroidery floss to do blanket stitch around the edges. I have 5 of these little black circles for the 4 little black circles for the tires, and these little white circles, also 4, are for the hubcaps. These tiny little yellow pieces of felt, there's 2 of them. That's for the headlamps. And gray for the window. Like so. And then the truck pieces itself. And there's various stitching lines you have to do to like accent it. On this one piece of red, I have put some iron-on interfacing on the back of it for stability. And I find it helpful to put a little bit of glue down just to stick your pattern down for cutting it so it doesn't move around on you. And when I've got a bit more done, I will continue filming. Here's a little bit more work done on the red truck ornament. These little headlamps are tricky to do, but I probably did the mistake of putting interfacing on the back first. I probably should have made the whole thing up and then done it, because it's really hard to sew through to tack it down. I had to use a sharp needle, and also to keep it kind of stable, I glued it, so you're also sewing through a little bit of glue. But it got done, and it is what it is. And in order to make sure that I didn't do the other side the wrong way, I lined them up, and then I put the wheels in the right spot, so they know where to go, and that is just glued, and I haven't sewed it yet. So I have to carry on. This side just needs all the accent stitchings Like there's a white line that goes down here, and then there's black that goes around, like for hubcaps and stuff. So I will get that done later, and I'll show it to you when I do it. There's the 2 halves of the felt truck with all the stitching done. I did find it was tricky to get the markings onto the felt so I knew where to stitch, but then I used one of these water erasable ones, and when I was done with all the stitching, I put them on a towel in the bathroom, and I just took a washcloth and got it quite damp and just sort of daubed, and it all went away. See how they're mirror images of each other, so you put them together. Voila. Like so-ish. And then the tree's supposed to go like tucked in. So it looks like it's sitting in the back of the truck. Somewhat like that. Whoops. Leaning. You can see in the picture a little bit better what it's supposed to look like there. See? And then I take my red thread and I go blanket stitch all the way around. I think I'm going to take some black sewing thread and just tack the wheels together just a bit so they're not flapping around, but other than that, the blanket stitch should suffice. And if you're curious what floss numbers I used, here we are. I did not use actual white. I used this brighter white. I thought it looked better. White is just a smidge dull. I could not find my black DMC floss, so I used this really dark gray one instead. I think it's okay. The lighter gray, that's what I used for the stitching on the windows. $8.95 is the blanket stitch around the tree, and I will do the blanket stitch around the trucks with $3.21. That's it for that one. I just have to figure out now what ribbon I want to use to hang it with.